Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Leela Web Dev. Today we will be diving into the HTTP methods, what they are, why they matter, and how to use them properly. So whether you are a beginner or a seasoned developer, this video will help you understand the 7 most common HTTP methods and a key concept called idempotency. Let's try to see this one. So before that, hit that like button and let's get started. So exactly what are HTTP method? Okay. So exactly what is an HTTP method? Simply put, it's something you include in every HTTP request, not responses, only requests you will be trying to do it. These methods tell the server what action you want to perform, want to fetch a resource, create something new, delete a file. HTTP methods are how you communicate your intentions to the server. As developers, it's your job to configure the servers to handle these methods correctly. Misconfiguring them and things can go wrong, like a GET request accidentally deleting data. So these are all the things. So what is an HTTP method? It's a communication tool. You are trying to tell the server what type of action you want to perform. And request component, it's a part of HTTP request and not response. So this HTTP method will be present only in the HTTP request only. So while we are getting response from the server, so you will not have an HTTP method. And you will be trying to tell to the server that whether you want to fetch request, create, update or delete resources. So let's try to see. So let's try to, before going on to this one, before we are jumping into the HTTP methods or something like that, let's try to understand idempotency. So this is the one super important concept you need to understand. So don't worry, it's easier than it sounds. In computer science and math, an operation is idempotent if repeating it multiple times has the same effect as doing it once, assuming the server state doesn't change. So that means when you are trying to call a URL in such a way that how many times you are calling, it doesn't have any effect means, then it is called as an idempotent. So that means for the first time, if you call only, it will affect, and next time when you are calling it, it will not affect. So let's try to break it down with a simple example. Okay. So idempotent, so deleting files over 1 GB. So let's say that imagine you are having a function, something like deleting files over 1 GB. The first time when you run it, it deletes all the files which are over 1 GB, 1 gigabyte. If you run it again, nothing happens because those files are already gone. This is called as an idempotent function. Now compare that a function to call something like an, let's say that I am deleting a biggest file. So you are having a deleting a biggest file. The first call deletes the largest file, and the second call when you try to run deletes the next largest file. So the result is different server state with each repetition. So here the second call deletes every time the next largest file. So and so on like that. Every call has a different effect. So then we will be calling this function is not an idempotent. The same idea applies to the HTTP methods also. An idempotent HTTP method means sending the same request multiple times only affects the server once. Non-idempotent methods means, on the other hand, can change the server state with every request. This concept will make the methods we are about to discuss crystal clear. So the first one is the HTTP get method, which you are trying to learn it. So now let's start with the get method. This is used to fetch a resource from the server. Okay, the purpose of this one is to fetch a resource from the server. And here like an image, HTML or JSON data, whatever it may be, so you are trying to get it. Get requests never have a body, so it doesn't have a body, it will never have a body. You just specify the URL to identify the resource. The server's response, however, does have a body containing the request data. So is this get request is idempotent? Absolutely. Sending the same get request 100 times with the same URL, and headers will return the same data every time without changing the server state. Sure, you might log the request, but that's minor. Get is all about retrieving data safely. So that is the thing. So now here you'll be able to see the thing. The next one is the post method. So the post method, let's talk about this post method. So, so post method is used to create a resource or perform an action like submitting a form. So that is the main thing. Post requests usually have a body. Okay, usually have a body containing the data you are sending, though it's optional. So though it's optional, it will have a body normally. The response typically has a body too, often confirming the action. Is post method idempotent? No. Post request is not always idempotent. If you send the same post request multiple times, like creating a comment on a blog, each request creates a new comment. Okay. So here when you comment data, each request create a new comment. 5 identical post requests you will end up with 5 comments. So that's why browsers warn you about the resubmitting forms when you refresh the page. Post is powerful but needs careful handling. So that is the main thing. So the next one is the put method. So let's talk about this put method first. So put is used to create or fully update a resource. For example, if you have a resource with a name, email, and a password, and you want to update all the three, you would be using the put request. The request has a body with a new data, and the response may or may not have a body. Is put is idempotent? Yes. It is safe if you send the same put request 100 times to update the user request. Okay. So the server state remains the same after this first request. The user's name, email, and password are updated once, and subsequent requests just override the same data with no additional cost. How do you choose between post and put request? So that is completely depends on you. So if sending the same request multiple times should only create one resource, use put. If each request should create a new resource like multiple comments, use post. So that is the main thing which I want to tell you. The next one is the patch method. So the patch method is for partial updating a resource. Going back to our user example only. So if you want to change only the name means, then but leave the email and password unchanged means, then we need to use the patch request. Like put request, the request has a body and the response may or may not have one. Is patch is an idempotent? It can be, but not always. For example, updating user's email with patch is idempotent. Sending it 100 times and the email stays the same after the first change. But if the patch increments a counter like increasing likes by 1, something like that, each request has the counter. So making it non-idempotent. So patch idempotency depends on how it is implemented. So the next one is the delete method. So the delete method does what it says. Deletes a specified resource like a post, image, or a user. The request may or may not have a body. Often you just include the resource ID in the URL. The resource can have a body, but it's optional. Is delete idempotent means yes, sending a delete request once removes the resource. Sending it again and sending it again, and the server will just say the resource is already gone with no other further changes. However, if a delete request deletes something different each time, like the 100 verified unverified users means, use the post method instead. That is not idempotent, as that is not idempotent. Fine. So let's go to the head method. The head method is like a get method, but only retrieves the headers. So this one head method means it will retrieve only the headers, not the response body. It is used to check the metadata like file size or caching info without downloading the full resource. Neither the request nor the response has a body. Is head idempotent? Yes, just like the get, it doesn't change the server state. No matter how many times you send it, head is less common but useful for things like checking the file size before downloading it. So those type of things we will be trying to use it. Some websites will be there which will always try to use this one. Okay, so here you'll be able to see the client sends the end request, server process prepares the metadata and returns headers with the content in 250 MB, and the client can decide whether to download based on size. So that is the main thing. So the last one is the options method, which I want to tell you. So options method is used to ask the server about available communication options, but want to know which methods or header server supports. Send an options request. It is crucial for cross origin resource sharing, where browsers send options request to check if a domain is allowed to communicate with the server or not. The request has no body and the response usually doesn't either. So it might. The important info like allowed methods or header is in the response headers. Options is identified since it's querying info without changing the server. So if you use Express.js, you might be using the course package to handle the options automatically for course. It's a niche method, but vital for certain scenarios. So that is the main thing. So that is the finally thing. So here HTTP method summary. Get request means you need to fetch the resource. Idempotent means yes. Post request we need to create the resources. So idempotent means it is no. Put request means it will be used to replace the resources. Yes. Patch partial update, it depends. Delete is remove resources. Yes. Head is headers only. Options means query capabilities. So that is the main thing. So choosing between the post and put. So ask yourself, you should multiple identical requests create multiple resources. If yes, use post for comments, orders, log entries. If no, use put. So why use different HTTP methods? API predictability makes behavior clear and consistent. Safe retries. Frontend can retry idempotent requests. So for example, if you are trying to use the frontend means frontend developers can have a clear understanding, developer experience, easier to understand and use, better architecture, improves backend design. So common mistakes to avoid is using get to modify data. Get should never change the server state. Inconsistent method usage, mixing idempotent and non-idempotent behaviors. Wrong method for action. So using post for everything. So that is the only thing which I want to tell you. So that is deep dive into our HTTP methods. So we have covered get, post, put, patch, delete, head and options, plus the concept of idempotency also. So in the next video, we will try to learn about the HTTP status codes to make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell icon so you don't miss it. And if you have any questions, drop your questions in the comments below and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.